Hello YouTube, how's everyone doing? It's Professional here. So today I got a crazy current events video for you guys. Tomorrow I have a top 5 video coming out in my first part of Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days, which I think a lot of you guys are going to really enjoy. But anyways, if you're unfamiliar with this series, crazy current events are typically where I react to a ridiculous thing that's going around, and I give my opinion on it while having some gameplay in the background. So recently I found out that self-checkout machines are actually asking you for tips now. Not every single self-checkout machines, but a lot of places, and basically you get a little prompt on your screen which will say, would you like to tip 10%, 15%, 20%, or other. Now, I'm not necessarily against tipping, but to a self-checkout machine, I mean, come on. And who's to say exactly where this money is going? And I asked you guys on my streams, I asked you guys what you thought about this, and the vast majority of people said that they're not okay with this, that they're annoyed with this. Same reaction that I typically have here. So anyways, I'm going to be playing right here this clip for you guys. This is a news clip, and I'll also link this news clip down below if you guys want to check it out.
It's common, of course, to leave a tip when it comes to restaurants or the salon, but customers now voicing their frustration about tip requests at self-checkout machines. Self-checkout machines are popping up at stadiums, airports, and shops nationwide, asking customers who are already dealing with high prices to leave a tip. Employers say the gratuities help raise their workers' pay. Even though it is optional, customers are calling this tactic foul because they're not exactly sure what it is that they're tipping for.
Yeah.
But we always get caught in tipping more, right?
Always.
It's like, it makes you feel guilty.
I tipped the grocery store the other day because, well, it said
The
no.
checker?
Yeah, it wouldn't let me do no tip, and so then I just felt funny, so I went
Right.
just to finish my transaction. I just pressed tip. But for groceries,
It's awkward. I feel like also when they have to hand you the, whatever, the machine, they kind of look away and you're like, you don't know what to
See, you
do.
get guilted in.
we don't know what to do. I feel bad. Exactly.
So now, not every single self-checkout machine is asking for it, but a lot of them, a lot of stores, airports, and I just personally find this absolutely ridiculous because it's from a self-checkout machine. If I want to give a tip to somebody, it's going to be somebody that helps me with a specific task, somebody that provides good service and helps me. I'd rather give a tip to a cashier who bags a lot of my stuff. I come up with a huge amount of groceries, and a cashier bags all that stuff for me, takes care of it, scans, and gets me out really quickly. I'd rather give that tip to a cashier that deserved it. I'm not going to give a tip to a machine because I'm going up to the self-checkout machine and I'm going to be scanning a ton of there, scanning a lot of things there, and bagging it. And the thing is, though, when I do a lot of groceries at typically at Walmart. Walmart is a place that I would typically do groceries at. There's also another local supermarket near me, but it's a little bit farther. So I tend to go to Walmart to do a lot of my groceries. And I've noticed that over the years that at Walmart, there's less and less people on the cash registers, and this oftentimes happens in the afternoons. In the afternoons, you can barely find anybody on the cash register. There's just nothing but self-checkouts open. Now, the thing about this is a lot of people have a false view of these the self-checkout machines because I have heard a lot of people saying that self-checkouts are good because they will allow the company to use those employees for other tasks, and they'll be able to get more things done at a quicker rate. But this is completely false. This is not true. Because I tell you, from somebody who worked in retail for 6 years, when self-checkout machines get installed, typically at most companies, what happens is their hours get cut. You do not have the same amount of workers typically on shift as you did before the self-checkout machines got installed. So you actually have less workers. So it's not like you're going to have the same amount of workers on schedule when the self-checkout machine gets installed. But that's typically what happens to the self-checkout machines. And I tell you this, when I use the self-checkout machine, sometimes I get scared because when I do groceries, typically what I'll do groceries is I'll do groceries for like 3 weeks. I'll buy like a lot of groceries, like bags and bags of it that I'll pretty much fill up my entire trunk. And so when I do groceries, I usually go there like every 3 weeks. That's usually when I go to get groceries. I like to really stock up on things. And whenever I go to these self-checkout machines and I'm bagging so many things at once, I'm just personally scared to use it. I know how to use it. I worked in retail. I know how scanning works, but the reason that I personally get scared is because I'm scanning so many things at once, and I'm just scared I'm going to miss like 1 or 2 things by accident, and I'm going to walk out, and then they're going to think I stole something. That's just personally why I've never liked, self-checkouts, because of that, because you're responsible for scanning everything, and you're responsible for bagging it. If the cashier makes a mistake or something like that, then, no big deal. It's not your fault. But if you make a mistake on the self-checkout, how are you going to prove that to the company that that it was either theft or that you actually made a mistake. And what if you scanned something twice, and then I have to I go through the list and I just double check to make sure I scanned everything and that I just did not double or triple scan something by accident. But that's the thing. You're going to the self-checkouts and you're doing all the work at the self-checkouts. Nobody's helping you with that. You are bagging your own things. You're scanning your own things. So why do you give a tip? And here's the thing. For people that are unfamiliar, in America, there's a big tipping culture in America. And a lot of federal law states that employers cannot withhold tips from you. So your employer cannot take tips from you. If somebody gives you a tip, your employer cannot withhold tips. Now, there are some exceptions to this. Basically, if in certain jobs where employees rely mostly on tipping, that I believe the wage is like $2 something, correct me if I'm wrong on that, $2 something an hour, if that their employers are allowed to pay employees if they rely mostly on tips. But if they do more labor that is not reliant on tips, then they have to pay them the federal minimum wage. But here's the thing about this, guys. While federal law states that an employer cannot take your tips from you, there's no specific regulation that says that the employer has to give you, the employees, the money if it's going to a machine. If somebody tips a machine and not a person, then how are you going to prove who that person was intending to tip in the first place? So there's really, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but according to what I've read, there's really no obligation for the employer to give the tip to the cashiers or the store associates in this case, if they're tipping directly to the machine. That's personally one thing that I don't like. And what I'll say is, if you work at any of these places, let me know in the comments. If any of you guys work at any of these places that have these self-checkout machines and your self-checkout machines have a tipping option, please let me know in the comments. Do these tips actually go to the employees? Because I'm just really curious on that. Because if anything, they deserve to go to the employees. They don't deserve to go to management at all in that type of situation. It just deserves to go to the employees. But I'm still against, tipping at a machine like this, because I think that, you're the one that's doing all the work here. Nobody is helping you. And so who are you giving a tip to, and for what exactly? What's the reasoning for it? I know people are going to tell me in the comments, professional, it's optional. You don't have to tip. I get that and all, but it's just ridiculous that you see it coming from a self-checkout machine. And I'll tell you guys something else. This is one reason that I'm so skeptical of these companies when I see these self-checkout tipping option, because it might just be a big scam. The reason that I feel that way is because in retail, when you worked in retail, now I can't speak for all places, but I know that in most places in retail, you cannot actually take a tip. Typically, it's in the contract. Now, if you're being paid minimum wage, then the companies can actually restrict you from taking tips in the contract. Now, why wouldn't companies want you to take tips? The reason that companies wouldn't want you to take tips, according to them, it's so that employees are not being bribed to do something, or also so that customers don't feel the need that they have to tip an employee. But the thing about that is that companies should not be telling employees that they cannot receive tips. If somebody wants to go out of their way and to give you a tip for good service, then you should have the right to take it. You shouldn't be fired for something like that. When I worked in retail, customers would ask me to, help them take all their groceries to the car. I would help them take all their groceries to the car and put it in nicely. And oftentimes they would give me a tip. And at first I was scared to take these tips. I would deny them because I didn't want to get fired. And when I figured out where the cameras were and that they couldn't see it, I'd start taking tips. I would. Because, I was just getting paid a little bit above minimum wage. I was running around for this company, and somebody went out of their way to want to give me a tip. So, why shouldn't I take it? Why should I be restricted from taking the tip? And I remember that I would do a lot of curbside pickups. So when I would do groceries, if I didn't have time to shop around the store, I would do curbside pickups. And so I'd order on my computer and then I'd pick it up. Now, I tried to give these curbside employees tips a lot of times because these employees would shop around the store. They would go around the store. They would try to find all the items for you. They would organize it. They would bag it. And these employees organized everything really well. Like when you purchase fruits, they would organize all the fruits in just one bag. If you purchased frozen foods, they put all the frozen foods in one bag. So they would organize everything. It wouldn't just be a giant mess. And I tried giving these curbside employees tips several times just because they did a good job and they were quick and they loaded everything in my trunk. But whenever I tried to do that, they would always just freak out and they would just say, "Oh, no, I can't take a tip. I'll get fired." And I say, okay, I was just offering. I don't want to get you in trouble. But that's the reality. A lot of these companies restrict their employees from taking tips, and they catch you on the camera. If you take a tip, no matter what it is, you're going to fired on the spot immediately. And so that's why I find this so skeptical, is that a lot of these companies just fire employees on the spot for taking a tip, but now all of a sudden their self-checkout machines are asking for tips. I just personally find it ridiculous, and I just find it outrageous and possibly could be a scam. But let me know in the comments down below, what do you guys think? Would you actually consider tipping at something like this? Because like I said, I wouldn't. I would not consider tipping at a self-checkout machine like this. And why should the customers be required to to help the person get a better salary? It should be on the company. Like I said, not against tipping. I offer to tip a lot of times. I do give good tips to people if they accept it. But I personally think that a lot of these companies should pay their employees better. And, why don't they do something like, if they had something like, every employee would get every cashier would get 1% of the transaction back. Just the company would automatically give it back to them, like every transaction, because some of these, store associates do hundreds of transactions a day. If you do 1% of every transaction back for, that they ring up, I personally think that would make them more efficient, because cashiers would be more willing to ring things up. They'd be more quickly, they would bring it up at a quicker and steadier rate, and they'd be more willing to rank. So that's what I personally think. So I think these companies should do something to also pay their employees better, because I've been there. I've worked as a cashier for some time. I know it's not an easy job. You got to deal with a lot of Karens and a lot of nonsense and stuff like that. But now you got apparently self-checkout tipping. So let me know in the comments if you work at any of these places, if you have a self-checkout tipping, does it actually go to the employees? Because I'm very curious about that, because I've been trying to research that and trying to find it, but I was not able to find any posts on that. So let me know down below. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, do drop a like. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful day, guys.